Okay, so I am leaving the supermarket. It was closed. I think it's because a holiday just happened, and sometimes maybe hours change up after holidays, just like in school, how the next day, it might be closed, like a vacation or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm grateful to have food at home already. I was just coming up to the store to get like something specific that I didn't necessarily need, and I also just wanted to kind of go on an adventure and, make this video. But so, okay, to continue with what I was saying previously to this video, whenever you learning a language, whenever you using words, whoever's communicating about whatever they're communicating about, regardless of the language, they have to be in a certain vibration before they even say certain words. Like you have to feel something, you have to see something before you say something. So, what I've learned about myself and, about this journey with learning new languages, and I've always loved learning new languages and different ways that people communicated and different ways that people interact and connect, in a home space, in a private space, away from, like you might communicate one way at school, you might communicate another way, around associates, you might communicate another way around friends, um, you know, just different ways that people communicate. I've always been very interested in that. But anyway, so one thing I have learned is that, like, being in a Spanish speaking country where 99.9% of the language that people are using is different than what I grew up hearing and being around, right? But where I did grow up, there was people speaking the same language in my environment, in my neighborhood, at my school, but it wasn't consistently all the time, 24/7, everywhere I went. Like there were stores I could go to where everything was in Spanish, and there's conversations I heard where everyone was speaking in Spanish and stuff like that. But it wasn't to this extent. This is a cool balcony. It wasn't to this extent of where I'm at now. But regardless of what language you're using, it's about the vibration that you're in. It's about the state of being that the person communicating with you is in. And it's also about the state of being that you are in individually. I've learned that it doesn't matter the words that's being used. It can be said at the same exact rhythm, with the same exact dialect, with the same exact history. These people could be from the same place, the same neighborhood, the same state, right? And I could understand one person a lot more than the other person, even if they're saying the same exact sentence in the same exact way, using the same exact words, right? So I've learned that it's not about the words. If I'm meant to communicate and connect with someone, I'm meant to communicate and connect with them based off the state of being I am. If I'm frustrated and I'm trying to communicate something and I'm trying to figure something out, I could be connecting with somebody who dealt with frustrations and having a hard time trying to figure out whatever they're trying to figure out just as much as me, if not more, because that was the type of individual I manifested based off of the state of being that I was in, right? So if I'm talking to a person and I'm in the state of being open-minded and just wanting to explore and just not too fixated on a certain outcome, or not too fixated on things having to be a certain way, or only wanting things to be a certain way. If I'm not in that type of space, I'll be able to have an easier connection with, regardless of who I'm talking to, what I'm talking about, where we're talking about it at. And none of that will play a factor in things being misconstrued when it comes to communication, because what I'm meant to understand, I will understand, because I'm in an open-minded state of being, right? So I've learned this in many different ways. Like when I was working, right? They just talk to me in English. Even though outside of that particular space, everywhere else I went, I communicated in Spanish, right? I utilized the communication, the Spanish language that I did know, to communicate whatever message, whatever question. If I'm ordering food, I've spoken to many individuals here who did not know any English at all, but because the people I was working with already put me in a category of like, oh, she is an English speaking person, she's a gringo, she's this and she's that, whatever terms are used, right? That was the category that they put me in. So even when I did try to speak Spanish with them, it was always closed in. It wasn't a sense of freeness that I was like receiving. It wasn't like open to it. Like sometimes people appreciate like, oh, okay, she's trying and she's making an effort, to communicate this language that she's not familiar with, It wasn't that. Sometimes it is that though, because, but it wasn't that, right? So I realized like, okay, let me just continue to speak English like we've been speaking. But I was able to learn a lot because when a person doesn't think that you know what's going on, they will say a lot of stuff that they don't think you understand because of the category in the box that they put you in of like, she don't understand this. If I talk like this, if I say this, if I move like this, she's not gonna understand what I'm saying anyway. So I could say this right in front of her and she would, you know what I'm saying? So I just kind of learned to, just utilize my own spiritual strength, my own intuition to participate and say certain things and, act like I didn't know and, and stuff like that, just to kind of navigate and maneuver. And I didn't really communicate a lot at this job. And I'm actually going to walk to this job that I'm talking about, because instead of like the time that I would be, me being at the supermarket, shopping, I might have did a video in there and I was going to, talk about like the different herbs and stuff. Somebody's making some good ass chicken and I smell it all the way from right here. But I think it's somebody at their house. But anyway, but yeah, so I was able to learn a lot just from me observing my surroundings and learning how much percentage to put into a conversation, and it's also good to have rulers around for that, so how much percentage you should put into a conversation or put into anything that you're doing or not, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times I just wouldn't participate or put as much into conversating with the people in this environment, and I more so just focused on my actual job and what I was doing. But anyway, so I'm just using this example right now to talk about how, like, I knew that behind the scenes all of that was going on, where it was just like, like I noticed that there was a completely different personality, a completely different vibe that was coming out when people were talking in English and when people were talking in Spanish, right? But not just because of the language itself, but because of, I know she's not going to understand me anyway type of vibes. Or like, I can talk about this or I can do this and she would, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of other people trying to think for you, a lot of other people trying to move for you. They think they know the meaning and reasoning behind your actions. They think they know, you know what I'm saying, what's going on with you. So that's kind of how they move. But that's just based off of the spirit that's in the body. Not saying that all people who speak Spanish are like this, or that all Puerto Ricans are like this, or all Latin countries and people who know new languages, or people who hire people who are not familiar with the language of that particular place are like that. I'm not saying that that's the case, right? I'm just saying that it's about the spirit in the body. It's about the state of being that person is in. So it doesn't matter what physical state that you're in, because you're still in a spiritual space within yourself. And your spirit is your space. You know what I'm saying? Your spirit is your space. So it don't matter what words you're using. It don't matter what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? It's how you say it. But when I say how you say it, I don't mean like if you choose to add the S's to words, or if you drop the S's from words, or if you add L's instead of R's in certain locations for Spanish and shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about before the words even leave your mouth. You know what I'm saying? How you get this message across, what the purpose of the message this is for, you know? But yeah, language is very, very important, but language is not everything. This physical world is beautiful. You know, it's a lot of lights, it's a lot of colors, it's a lot of differences, it's a lot of shapes and forms, it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot going on. But before we even looking around and seeing all this physical shit, it had to come from an internal space first. Before somebody painted this, they had to feel and think and see something, you know, even if it wasn't like because I'm a artist, and I paint and I draw, and I don't really think about nothing. I just move my pen and but you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that it has to be a thought that comes across you. I'm just talking about a vibration is there before you portraying a message, you know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I just learned a lot, and what I learned isn't always about like you would think after me being here almost 2 years that I might be fluent now, or that, you know, I might know all the words in Spanish, or, you know, I might have sat and really studied Spanish, but I haven't sat and studied Spanish at all, really. Like, you know, I've made like a couple playlists about certain things, like you know, phrases. I seen this Instagram where it's like Spanish phrases, and they typed it out, and the person would like pronounce, you know, each word and stuff like that. And, you know, I've seen stuff like that, and I might skim over it or whatever. And I hear, you know, my main study and practice is from hearing people say things like, I would say, like when I hear people say, like, I learned how to use una by hearing how somebody used it, because they was in the same place that I would have been in, right? So like, if I'm at the store, I'm at the cash register, and it's time for me to pay, and they asking me if I want a bag, I seen the person that was behind me, you know, they got all their stuff and they gathered it, and when the person asked them for a bag and they responded with how many, right? I seen how they was able to do it, and I was like, oh, that's how you say it. And so I was able to implement it that way. So not to say that I haven't studied per se, I just haven't studied in the traditional practical type of way that we like learn in school and stuff like that, because I learned from experience, you know what I'm saying? And so although this is a journey and I'm in another country and I'm learning and stuff like that, it don't really got nothing to do with the country. It don't got nothing to do with this physical world. It don't have nothing to do with the United States and maps and all the shit that's being presented in front of us. You know, it's about before it even gets there. You know what I'm saying? Before I came to this island, before I looked around and see buildings, you know what I'm saying? Before, you know, I woke up for a particular day in that morning, you know what I'm saying? I understand, like, mornings, for instance, are about transformation. You know what I'm saying? That's why regardless of if it has a U or just an R in it, like MOURNING morning or MORNING, both of those deal with transformation. And everything that we're doing throughout life, whether we're asleep or awake or going in that transition, is about birth, life, and death. Are you giving birth to new ideas? We all are. But are you giving birth to your own ideas or regurgitated ones that you memorize? You know what I'm saying? Are you, you know, like, are you putting death to certain ideas but because they outdated and you want to, you know, move on, you know what I'm saying, and think about something else, think in a new way? Or, you know, are you just being stagnant and you letting the world tell you what's birth, life, and death? You know what I'm saying? You know, birth, life, and death. You know, they're all, when you talk about birth, you talk about life and death too. When you talk about life, you talk about birth and death too. Like, it's all intertwined and it's all together. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so the job I was talking about, I'm about to make this right here, and this is the job that I was talking about. And I talked about this in another one of my videos, the one that is 52 minutes long, and it's titled like Cafeteria Piedra Nightlife or something like that. But yeah, so this is the space of where I would go to that particular job. I would walk this way, and I would walk this way, and then, you know, it was right here, basically, mi bordados. And it's the upstairs too. So upstairs was like screen printing and stuff like that, and downstairs was more so embroidery. And I'm gonna just show, and then I'm gonna continue to walk. But I love this job. It was an amazing job. It really fit my personality, especially when it comes to like details and making sure things are perfect and they're the right way, and just learning about everyday things that I've seen and experienced, but being able to see it from a new way, so instead of me just putting on clothes, instead of me just thinking about certain designs and thinking about how designs could go and stuff like that, I was able to, it's something going on down here, people clapping and stuff, but I'm about to go home because I'm hungry. But yeah, like, so everything is coming from like a spiritual, internal, behind the scenes place first in general, but especially when it comes to me, because as I mentioned in the previous video, my North Node is in Scorpio, and that's your spiritual path, and Scorpio is about things that's deep, unseen, unknown, behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I could be talking to you, or you could see me on a regular basis, and you might think in your head you have me figured out. I mean, you probably don't. You probably don't know what to think, type of shit. But I'm just saying, like, there's many ways to communicate. There's many ways to see the world. It's not just one fixated way, And I just really wanted to shed light on. I'm gonna go this way. I just really wanted to shed light on the fact that it doesn't matter how much you learn about a certain language that you think makes you capable and competent enough to be able to understand it all and blah, 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 and this language, because fuck the language. Fuck whatever language it is. You know what I'm saying? It's about the state of being that you're in. So if you want a certain outcome, if you want a smooth, easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl conversation, you got to be in that state of being, If you want things to be difficult and more frustrating, you're going to be in that state of being, and that's what you're going to get as a response. That's what you're going to get back, So, I just wanted to talk about this. Also, I hope that this video and the previous video answers a lot of questions for people. Different comments and stuff. And as I stated in the other previous video, I'm not from this planet. Do not attach me and label me up to any type of human, earthly, nothing. You know what I'm saying? Not from this planet. You know what I'm saying? I'm just utilizing this language. I'm just utilizing this body. I'm just utilizing my voice right now. I'm just utilizing this shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.